I've talked quite a bit about my dad, and I hope I've given some sense of what a relationship was like and the different facets of it. My mom was quite a different kettle of fish. My mom was extremely intelligent. I knew that, from a young age. It was amazing sometimes the insights she came up with. But she had been emotionally damaged by the fact that her father died when she was about 5 years old. And her mother moved her and her 3 siblings to Barnwell, and they had to live with William Sawyer Johnson, the patriarch of the Johnson family, who was my grandma's dad.
And this would have been about in the 20s, perhaps?
This would have been about the 20s, yep. They'd gone to California, and I guess their life was full of promise. And suddenly, Orrin Wilcox died. And there was my mom in a household. I mean, not only were there a number of William Sawyer's children still there, but there were other grandchildren staying there, because a couple of the other of his children, their marriage had broken down or somebody had died, and it just seemed like it was like a big boarding house. And William Sawyer was naturally given to discipline, and he used to run things like an army post. And anyway, I think my mom felt that she didn't really have a place there, and I think she felt insecure because her relationship was a bit ambiguous. Anyway, she tells a lot of stories about Grandpa's tyranny, and Grandma Johnson was quite a different. She was a very compassionate soul, and she used to do things to try to make things easier for the kids. One of the stories Mom tells is about being forced to go down and sort out the potatoes and carrots in the cellar. And there were lizards down there. And she was deathly afraid of these lizards. And Grandpa Johnson took the attitude that she needed to get over it, and the only way she could get over it was to go down there and refuse to give way to her fear. And Mom was tortured several days by this, and Grandma Johnson knew about that, and apparently she came and brought some tea cakes that she'd made, and stuff, and tried to comfort him, although being a good, she wasn't going to go against her husband's orders. Anyway, Mom obviously had a flair for the theater. She actually met Dad at a theater festival, and Dad was singing and Mom was in a play. And apparently, from what I've heard from her relatives, that she was really good. She had a real flair for it. I didn't pay much attention to it until I remember in 1946, Oklahoma hit the stage. And it was on the music was on the radio. I mean, it was the kind of music that appealed to rural people, the simple people, And there was one character in there, of course, that was quite a risque sort of character. She was a real slut, actually. And if you want to be honest about it. And the music was played a lot on the radio every day. You'd hear one or the other of those songs. And I had to stay home one day because I was sick from school. And my mom sat me up in a chair, and she said, "I want you to be the audience here, and I'm going to show you." And she proceeded to sing and act out one of the songs from the piece. And it was the oh gosh, now my memory is failing me. It's the one where she sings about "I'm just a girl who can't say no." I can't remember what the character's name is.
I'm in a terrible fix.
With or without the mistletoe, I'm in a holiday mood. Anyway, it's a song about a girl who's very loose and very horny and really it turned on to men. And the thing was, she not only sang all the words, but she acted it out. She came and sat on my lap and acted out this song so well. I was astonished. I'm just a girl who can't say no. And it blew my mind. It absolutely, totally changed my my view of my mother. You know, in my mind, my mother was a girl who couldn't say yes, because Dad was always complaining about that. But here she is, you know, getting into singing this song. And, you know, I've never forgotten that. I felt like a veil was being drawn and I was being given a privileged look at this beautiful woman that was my mother, that normally she didn't dare show to people, and she certainly didn't show it to my dad, but she was willing to show it to me, her oldest son. And I guess that was I felt like I was being trusted with something sacred, and I've never forgotten that moment. I responded by coming home with a kind of a risque Robert W. Service poem that I picked up in an old book at the library, which I memorized and used for memory work and shocked the teacher. And I recited that to my mother, and she couldn't help but laugh, and obviously really enjoyed it, even though she felt obligated to say, "Oh, you shouldn't talk like that," you know, something. Those weren't her exact words, but that was the idea. She felt like she had to kind of, but she obviously enjoyed it so much. I still remember that poem to this day, and I still get asked to recite it sometimes. And whenever I do, I always think of my mom sitting there listening. And I think in some ways that's the closest I ever got to her. That and I'm just a girl who can't say no.